Today we have a really exciting class. We have one of America's foremost publicists with us, which you'll be hearing a little bit later in the class. So as usually what we'd like to do is to start off with a little current events. And just by a show of hands, how many of you have iPhones in this class? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Maybe that has some reason why Apple stock has decided to just collapse all at the same time. What kind of phones do the other people have here? How many Samsungs in the house? Okay, so Samsung seems to be taking a little bit market share. I was reading today in the Wall Street Journal saying that Samsung is now outspending Apple for the very first time in TV advertising and marketing because they think they have a better phone. So if I was Apple, I'd be pretty concerned about your business model and to pay very close attention to what Samsung is doing. Okay, hopefully Apple with their new renditions. How many of you have iPads? Okay, well that's certainly more than iPhones, no doubt about that. How many of you think that the mini iPad was not a good idea for Apple? Okay, why do you think so? It's a little louder.
Well, people already purchased. They just purchased the new iPad. So why would I buy a mini? And the price point, you can get a Kindle or a Nook versus the mini iPad.
Absolutely cannibalizes it.
Yes, like the Kindle advertising, when it compared, it says pretty much Apple. You have the Apple Mini and you have the Kindle. Pretty much they're the same, but one is 200 and one is 400.
Sure, I'll tell you what I love about the Kindle is you can read it in the sunlight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the greatest things in history. Why the phones don't work that way? Why they don't license that technology to Apple so you can see your phone, in the sunlight is really quite crazy. Really quite crazy. But hopefully they'll be able to figure that one out. All right, so we have two students who are going to be coming up today, and we're going to be listening to their ideas. And so let's give it up for Tiffany, our first speaker.
I'm Tiffany, and I just want to ask a question. How many people in here knit? Oh God, I got 4 people. Thank goodness. Okay, so they're gonna understand what I'm talking about. Sorry, everybody. Where do you purchase your yarn?
Usually at Walmart, but I go around the neighborhood.
Walmart. You?
Michael's or online.
Michael's or online. Well, I usually purchase it from all over, but I usually like to get like luxury yarn, which is made out of like merino wool, silk. Sometimes I crochet or knit in acrylic, but not really because I don't want to waste my time knitting something out of the type of material. So I do knit, but I'm not selling knits. This is what I make for like my daughter and stuff like that. This is made out of alpaca. Alpaca is an animal, and this is what I knit, and this is like some kind of specialty sparkling yarn, that. But what I was doing was experimenting with dyeing wools and silks. And because I go, when I go and I shop, I go like the Pearl Soho. You ever heard of Pearl?
Yeah.
Of course, right? That's the Mecca, right? And I go there and I see some of the things there, and I really want to purchase it, and I really love it. And I would spend a lot of money on yarn, and I don't want to use it for anything because why? It's too luxury to just give to someone. But there are people out there. It's true, but there are people out there who just buy yarn in caseloads. And I had an idea of this is something outside. I don't know if you pass it around. I use a commercial dye to dye the yarn. That's just like samples. That's just 100% wool. That's regular wool, but yarn comes in all different kinds of animal hairs, like mohair, goat, sheep, and silkworm. So my idea was to also have orange. And I did it as like a kettle dye. You can also hand paint your yarn as well. You can buy natural yarn. So my idea was to not manufacture, but paint my own yarn and sell it online, like the colors that I like that I would want to knit with. So I was going to name the actual company, Stash, because knitters tend to stash yarn and buy loads of it, and that was just my idea. And I don't know, that was a luxury yarn made out of silk, wool, merino wool, and just to sell it online because I really love. This is my hobby. It's not something I tell people I really do.
Renee, you've been selling on Etsy for a while, right?
Yes.
As well. How's that been going?
I stopped doing it. It was fine, but I was making handmade products for the hair and the body, and that's very daunting. It takes a lot of time. You use a lot of raw materials, and I do it out of necessity now because now that I know how to make my own creams, I don't really buy anything because I know what I'm putting in it. But it's a lot that you put into it, and then my issue was it's fresh. I do use some kind of preservative, it's paraben-free preservative, but the storing is a lot. I don't have any place to store it. If I store it, it's in my refrigerator, and I can't cook anything because I have jars of butters in my refrigerator. So it's less cooking and more cooking things that you can't eat. And I love it, and I do have customers who email, are you going to open up back the shop? But I don't think I will. I think I'll just do it to make it for home, or if someone that I do know personally would want something. But I really love knitting and yarn, and I used to sell it. I learned years ago. I don't want to tell you how old I am, but I learned years ago how to knit. But I didn't really sell it because of the time you put it, the effort and time, and people would say, well, I got discouraged because they would want something that I spent, the yarn alone was $25. They want me to give it to them for $20. So I didn't really knit for profit because it's really hard to knit for a profit.
Yeah, very difficult when you have China yarning this stuff out at something that costs you $25, $30 a time. They're selling retail in Walmart for $5. I mean, it's really impossible to try to be a domestic unless it's a customized situation.
Unless it's customized,
very, very tough.
you do have your customers who will buy handmade, but it's a small community to me. It's not a big market. So that's it.
Very good. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
So I started the summer of 2012, and I started because I wanted to provide versatility and variety to women, because you can find cloth menstrual pads online, but you can't find 2 different styles or the amount of fabrics that I offer. I offer 3 types of fabrics. I offer in 6 different sizes, and I also offer breast pads along with wet bags. So these are all handmade. I designed everything. And basically, women don't understand or know that this even exists now and use what is the norm in society, disposables. And they don't understand that disposables have chemicals in them which our body absorbs, which causes our menstrual cycle to be longer, which causes our menstrual cycle to be heavier, and causes foul odors, and causes skin irritations and yeast infections and all of that stuff. So cloth menstrual pads decreases all of that, and even decreases your flow and the symptoms associated with your menstrual cycle. And basically I started because my stepmother was diagnosed with cancer, and these are the type of products that women with health issues along with cancer patients need in order to basically go about their day feeling comfortable, feeling great, feeling like they can do anything without worries of being on the bus and something happening. They have incontinence issues, which is awesome for. So these are all the pads I offer. This is a postpartum overnight, which is great for nighttime or for when women give birth. It's great for the first few days or weeks. These are heavy days and light days. These are great for regular use, so panty liners, also regular use, and these are also, you could use with tampons or alternatives to tampons, which there is, like cups. These are breast pads and thong liners. And basically, each pad is thin, as you can see, and all have an absorbent core, absorb. And this one's topped with Makey and back with water-resistant fleece. And you can pass that around. And I also offer offer flannel and cotton because most women don't like the Mickey. So what I need to work on for my business is advertising and raising awareness. And right now, what I'm trying to do is offer a section on my website for women to have the option to donate. And basically that option will be, I'm right now working with Teal, Tell Every Amazing Lady. And basically they raise awareness for ovarian cancer. And hopefully I will offer all of these items in teal colors and teal different fabric prints in that section of my shop where a percentage of the proceeds will go to them. I also want to do another donation part of my website where women can donate $1 to $10 or whatever amount they want, and basically that money will go to fabric, and I will make more of these, make kits for girls around the world, like third world countries, and donate them to them, like organizations and orphanages, because I know a lot of girls, they drop out of school, they can't go to school, or they can't go about their daily activities because they don't have the proper menstrual protection because they can't afford it, or they just can't get it. So that's another thing I want to do. And I also want to offer wholesale, and I also want to add other products such as laundering, detergent, and stain removers, and all these other stuff. So women could feel like, okay, I can go cloth because everything's available on your website, or stuff like that. It makes it easier. It's more convenient. So this is my business, and I have samples if anyone wants to attend the class.
Let me ask you, what is the competition like? In the 7 years I'm doing this is by far the most unique business I've ever heard of.
It's not
in all my
that
years.
much competition, but there are very well-known brands because they've been out there longer. So it's not that bad.
Because I recently read somewhere, I think it was even Afghanistan, in one of the poor countries, that girls stay home from school during their menstrual cycle,
Yeah,
and
and they
it's
miss
a
out.
normal, it's like a normal course of
Yeah.
business because they cannot afford things. And around the world, this sounds like it certainly saved,
Yeah.
a lot of lives, a lot of people in their education. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the National Institute of Health, or one of the organizations that supply, aid out there,
lot
would do
of-
if you were to approach them with this idea.
Well, basically, a lot of women who work at home and do provide menstrual cloth packs, they take it upon themselves to do what I was explaining, like offer a donation page and that type
Right.
of stuff. And then they just collect and they do it themselves. They go out
Right.
and find the organizations or orphanages and donate.
Right, and how about domestically? I mean, who's your target market? I mean,
Women from all over the world.
okay, how many of you would use something like this just by a show of hands? Okay, so I mean, this is,
A lot of women aren't so comfortable with it because they don't know about it, and it's not something that it's just we're used to,
Right.
until you try it. Then that's when your whole perspective changed, because I was iffy about it first too when I discovered, oh my god, there's cloth pads, what is that? That's nasty, but then I was like, wow, this is great, my
Right.
menstrual cycle's slow,
right.
I mean, you have to try it. It's just not something that everyone in society is
Right.
used to.
Right, try it and release it. Today, we're going to watch as part of the Young Entrepreneur Series. We're going to learn a little bit about, marketing, from your peers, people just like you, right out of college, and what they've done to market their businesses to be
To
successful.
build a brand, whether it's television, radio, web advertising, or word of mouth, each business needs a unique blend of getting their name out there. This chapter will cover the basics of taking your business idea out to the public to let them know what you offer.
Marketing is a lot of different things. Marketing is your image. Marketing is the collateral that you use to put forth that image. Marketing is the way your studio looks. Marketing is advertising. Marketing is customer service.
The key to marketing is understanding who your audience is, absolutely hands down. If you can understand the person that you're pitching or the person you're going to be putting your ad in front of, you can understand where they go, what they look at, where they would search online, the magazines, the publications, etc. I think the best way to do that is literally whiteboarding. Get in front of a whiteboard or a pen and paper and draw the person that you want to sell to, what they look like, what they wear, where they shop, the things they buy, different attributes about that person so you really understand them.
What I always try to do is look at whatever competition that's out there and say, okay, what is my competition doing? Where are they advertising? Where are they posting information at? What are they selling prices, their products for and things like that. And then whoever I felt was amongst my best competition, I would try my best to emulate them.
Traditional marketing still has its place in business, and what I mean by traditional marketing is pretty much everything but online, which is good old networking, trade shows, expos, also print media.
So the way we've marketed Method has always been very alternative, and I was a big believer that we had to be ahead of the curve and do things that our competition couldn't do. So our competition's really good at mass advertising, because to be good at it, you just have to have a lot of money. And coming from that world of advertising, and it was really important not to ever try to play that game. So we put money elsewhere. First place we always put it was in the product and delivering a better product experience. And again, the role of packaging. Second was merchandising. If we're going to have a beautiful package and a beautiful product, well, we got to make sure people notice it. So we invested more behind what we call our M spots, which are brand blocking displays of Method.
We put signs up on the gates of our 200 plus members throughout the community, so anybody who's walking past their property know that we're being serviced. Our garbage bags look different, our uniforms look different. We have a military and aggressive look because we're an aggressive community.
So we started marketing just using Google AdWords, which is the search component for Google. Anytime you search a keyword, you can put an ad and you pay per click. We've had a lot of success with that. A big part of our monthly marketing budget goes into that. And then from there was landing pages. Once they click on the ad, again, displaying them the things that are relevant to them, and ultimately hoping to sell them or convert them.
And then we also form partnerships. Partnerships are really, really important. When you're talking to other entrepreneurs and trying to figure out, how you both further your goals, that's the other negotiating factor. What do they want? What do you want? So we worked with The Body Shop, for example, and they had this shower gel for Earth Day. It's called Earth Lover Shower Gel. It was biodegradable and it smelled amazing. And they wanted us to announce it and launch it for Earth Day. So we partnered that with the 3-minute shower challenge, trying to get college women all across the country to take shorter showers in order to conserve water and save the environment. So we partnered those two things together, and then the winners who entered into the challenge won a ton of products from The Body Shop. So we were marketing The Body Shop, but by providing really integrated and innovative content on our site.
I'm doing cross marketing with other businesses as well. Like if there's a jazz club and they need to eat, or they need to listen to music, or like there's a bar close by you.
In any industry that you're getting into, look around and see what associations or other resources are available that you can network with them.
To grow your business, you just have to keep meeting people, keep meeting politicians, keep meeting community members, keep meeting bankers. I cannot tell an entrepreneur how I succeeded on how I come this far in business. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I cannot, if I have to start over today and recreate this business the same way to make it start, I just can't. It wouldn't. It's about the resources, the people I meet. That drives where we go. I'm more sporadic. I'm more organic in my growth. I grow whichever way the sun is pointing.
Today we're at the Billboard Touring Conference and Awards, and we're the presenting sponsor of this event. And this is really these sorts of opportunities are a way for us to engage with people face to face. Start the conversation. This particular event's full of industry experts, movers and shakers within the live entertainment business, and this is our way to start to talk to them. You never can expect to leave with a bunch of clients in your back pocket, but they are people that can ultimately make an introduction, or maybe even become a client down the road.
From the very beginning of our company, we would do these different charity event shows where You set up a booth at a breast cancer foundation or a junior league. 15% of your sales would go to the charity. You're selling product to the customer, getting the customer feedback. You're making a good margin, but you're telling the story. Everybody that comes up to our booth, they're getting to know the story of our company.
Social media is so important for entrepreneurs because if you're starting a company, and it's a good company, it should be focused on a mission, create a cause versus a business. And there should be real human beings and real stories behind it. And that's such a big advantage versus a giant corporation.
Social media is an incredibly important tool for us in terms of marketing. Facebook is one of our largest traffic sources. About a third of our traffic actually comes from Facebook. All of our writers are constantly posting links on Facebook to their articles because they wrote these articles and they want other people to read them. And so people are hearing about the site through their friends. So they're getting a recommendation from someone that they trust, someone they're friends with on Facebook, and then they're checking out our site and hopefully they're liking it, and then they're telling their friends about it. The same thing goes for Twitter. And social media is just an incredibly cost-effective, it's free way to really spread the word about your company to hundreds of thousands of people at once. So if you have a business idea, the most important thing for you to do, or one of the most important things for you to do, is to get up a social media presence right away. It will take you less than a half hour to put up a Facebook page and create a Twitter. And through that, you can start spreading the word about what you're doing. And as other people come to learn about it, they're also going to give you feedback. And that feedback is going to help inform your direction, help give you ideas for how to move the business forward. And it's fun, and it doesn't cost any money at all.
We're able to create a community who we can go survey. It's a great area to ask questions. So instead of spending $25,000 or $50,000 on an expensive focus group, you can do that focus group for free if you have a robust Facebook page or if you have a group through a social media platform.
On the day-to-day basis on Facebook, we introduce like a new drink or the new special or what's going to be happening this weekend, or if they come in at this certain hour, this certain time, there's a special.
Brand is everything. Brand identity, you think about McDonald's. You think you see a yellow M, you don't think McDonald's, you think, oh man, a number 2. You know?
Being true to whatever your company's mission is and making sure that your messages across all platforms and all media channels stay true to that message is something that I really drive home at Luxury Market Branding. I want customers to know that they can always rely on the companies that I help to market and help to build. And then in turn that creates trust, and in turn that creates word of mouth marketing and gives that company more equity in the marketplace.
lucky enough today to have with us a longtime friend of mine, the CEO of 5WPR, Ron Tarosian, founded this New York-based PR firm and has overseen the growth of the agency. His PR agency was born and bred in New York. Ron has overseen the PR initiatives for clients including Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Anheuser-Busch, Barnes & Noble, IHOP, Bad Boy Entertainment, Marriott Hotels, Snoop Dogg, and the Governor of Israel, just to name a couple. Ron Tarosian has also been a semi-finalist for Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year. So without any further ado, let's give it up for Ron Tarosian.
Thank you. Sir. Hi, guys. That's it. Good? You like that? So, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and chat a little bit about the world of PR and the rest. So, my name is Ron Tarosian. I started a firm called 5WPR a little bit more than 10 years ago out of a room less than half the size of this. Today, we're over 100 people. That's the music for telling you we're over 100 people. That's the music. So about 110 people now in Midtown Manhattan, of course. We have a small office in Los Angeles, and we've really built a business around the PR space by doing things much differently than others. So in the last 10 years, the world has completely changed in terms of communication. My kids can use the iPad way better than I can. My kids can use the iPhone way better than I can. And guess what? I own a company where people pay attention to what I have to say. So you know why I'm going to be really careful today? Somebody guess why I'm going to be very careful today about what I'm going to say.
It's your video.
I'm on video. So it doesn't matter that I'm speaking to 15 people here. I'm not speaking to 15 people here. Anybody who puts this, whatever Ted does with this later, anything that I say here is going to be looked at much differently because my employees will look at it, my competitors will look at it. So if I say something that's not perfect on camera, well, guess what? My business is much different, which means we won't show on camera, a water brand that was given to me by my friend Ted Leibowitz, and I won't put it on camera on purpose. You know why? I represent water brands, and that's not one of them. So I don't want my water brand to see what I do, right? That I would drink another water, which I would never drink because it's terrible, because only our brands are the best. That's the joke. So I'm born in Brooklyn, a few blocks away from here. I moved to the Bronx when I was 3. Attended New York City public schools my whole life. Went to State University of New York, and I graduated college, and I had no clue what I was going to do. My mother was, of course, thrilled that her college graduate son delivered pizza for 2 years after college. And I delivered pizza because I wanted to hang out with my friends and go out and all the rest. But I grew up without any money, and I always decided that my children would not grow up without any money. I didn't know how I'd do it, but I wanted to make money. So I worked in politics for a few years, and I really got a rush out of it. It was very enjoyable. There's some great things and some terrible things about working in politics. The bad news is you're going to end up in jail if you have any. The news is you end up in jail if you want to make any money, right? But there is a crisis every minute in politics. So one of the things I learned in politics was I got a real rush. But right now, let's say you work for Obama or Bloomberg or whoever it is, they have a crisis every 5 minutes. Do we agree? Yeah. Every 5 minutes you have crisis. So guess what? You see Obama or Bloomberg on TV, but you don't see the 50 guys behind them who are writing the speech for them while they run from press conference to press conference to press conference. So every night I was getting woken up, which at the age of 22, 23 was a lot of fun because you'd be on TV and do a lot of things. But I said to myself, well, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I'm going to want a family, I'm going to want a real life, and you're not going to want to do those sorts of things. So I worked in politics for a few years, and then I came back I was living in Israel for a few years, and then I came back to the States, here to the city, the Bronx, where I grew up. And I said, okay, I'm going to work in PR. I had no clue what it was. But I said, okay, I would be really good at it. And I remember I walked into an office of about 50 people. And I remember the first day everybody left at like 5:30. The office hours were 9 to 5:30. And I said, okay, I'm going to leave at 6 o'clock day 1. And then day 2, I said, I'm going to leave at 6:30. And day 3, I'm going to leave at 7 o'clock. And so basically I started working 9 to 7, 8:45 to 7. And I remember after a few months, people couldn't believe it. Oh my God, you're working 8:45 to 7. Well, guess what? It ain't that much, and it ain't that big a deal. And if the other guy's going to work till 6, I'm not working. So frankly, I learned to do PR, over the course of a few years, really just by myself. Remember, one of the first brands that I, really enjoyed working on was Clinique. So, to this day, the most expensive haircut I've ever gotten is a $12 haircut. I don't use any beauty brands other than what my wife happens to put in the, in the shower. I do have a favorite brand of shaving cream, but that's about it. Not using it lately. But I know nothing about the beauty business. But I figured, what? I'm going to learn what Clinique needs. And I sat, and I listened, and I read, and I read, and I read. And along the way, I made a few mistakes, but I did phenomenal work for that beauty brand. And I remember it. And then I took on other brands I really didn't understand much about. This is, 15 years ago or so. And I started to do it. And so after getting my salary tripled 3 times over the course of 18 months or so, I went to work for another company. And that was the only other, I worked for 2 other PR firms. The second PR firm I went to work for, at the time, I was really a superstar at a small firm, so there was a lot of opportunities available. So I went and I spoke to a bunch of different PR firms, and I got offers from humongous companies. And then I was about to take a job at a humongous firm that you all would know the name, but I won't say bad words on camera. I'm joking. My office, whenever we say a competitor's name, it's a bad word. You get it. You guys are from Brooklyn, you should appreciate that. Come on. So I met a CEO of a firm that I really admired what he was doing. He was an entrepreneur. And I said, I want to work for that guy because I want to learn how to run my own business. And I worked there for 4 years, and I ran a New York office, and had a lot of people working for me, and really made decisions. I decided how to hire somebody, how to fire somebody, what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And so, I started my firm, as I said, a little bit more than 10 years ago. I called the firm 5W. 5W stands for who, what, when, where, and why, is what 5W stands for, which is really the fundamentals of communications. When we started the business, we had a wide variety of different clients. So we were working for a very well-known Israeli politician. We were working for one of the most famous entertainment brands in the world, a hip-hop brand that Ted mentioned when it was introduced. We were working for a sports marketing company. And at the beginning of my business, people said to me, what does politics have to do with hip-hop, have to do with consumer brands, right? And the answer is that we can do great press for all of them. And that's really, what we started to do. And we've still never made a new business call to this day. The secret to success, you all want it? Work really hard. That's the secret. Get to work really early and leave really late. There are no shortcuts. There is no easy way to make money. I would tell you that, one of the main reasons I started my business is because I remember when I worked for companies, I always had to wear a tie. Okay? And I hate wearing a tie. I hate it. And in the last 10 years, I have never worn a tie. So sometimes people say to me, you're nuts. You don't want to wear a tie. That's a reason to start your own business. I would tell you that, every entrepreneur has a little bit that's off in their head. A little bit that's off. You have a little bit that's different. And I know Ted well enough to say with love and with admiration that Ted has a little bit off in his head. So you look at entrepreneurs, and you look at some of the greatest. Who's wearing Nikes in this room? Nobody wearing Nikes? So you know what Phil Knight's father told him before he started Nike? Ever know the story of Nike? They were the greatest businesses in the world. I've read a lot about Nike, and if you're real entrepreneurs, you should read about Nike. You know that people get the swoosh tattooed on their body who work at Nike to this day? You know that? You know that if you work with somebody for 20, 30, 40 years, and the guy leaves and goes to Adidas, most of them never speak to the person again because they went to work for the enemy? So Nike, when they started the company, started as a running shoe, started as a running brand. Not an athletic lifestyle brand like it is now. It was hardcore running brand. And Phil Knight started Nike selling them out of his car. And his dad told him, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? You're selling sneakers out of your car? Go get a job. You know what that company's now called today? It's now called Nike. So I would tell you that, again, with love and admiration about Ted and about others, entrepreneurs have a little bit, that's different, that's off. So one of the reasons I really started my business was I really hated wearing ties. And, my mother, when she was alive, told me I was nuts, and others did. But for me, that was really something, I knew that I wanted to be different, and I wanted to build my brand, and I wanted to do things my way. And I really believe in the concept of, doing it your way. And you look at somebody like Phil Knight, who I admire a lot, or you look at, the great Jay-Z from Brooklyn, or plenty of others, and they're doing it their way. They're people that, do things a little bit different. I think it's very important if you want to be successful in life that you know your brand. What does know your brand mean? Know your limitations. Know what you're great at. From a very young age, I couldn't stand science and math. Couldn't stand it. Could not stand it. So now you're at a point in your life when frankly you don't really have to do anything you don't want to do, right? In other words, you're now transitioning to a point in your life where I would tell you, the people around you are really important. What does that mean? Again, I grew up in the Bronx, public school, my whole life. I am not in touch with anybody that I grew up with because I wanted to be the greatest at PR at what I do. I wanted to be very successful. And none of my best friends at that time in my life wanted to be the best garbage man or the best cop or the best. If they wanted to be the best cop in the world, that's okay. If they wanted to be the best sanitation worker in the world, the best professor, but they don't want to be the best. So if you don't want to be the best, I can't have that energy next to me at that point in my life. If you're dating somebody right now who doesn't figure out why you're so driven to succeed, don't have that energy next to you. You can't make it, you can't succeed. You just can't succeed. If that person was your best friend when you're 12, but you're now 25, doesn't mean they have to be your best friend growing up. But at the end of the day, and I would tell you that anybody, I considered after college going to law school, okay? And again, a boy from the Bronx like me didn't know too many lawyers growing up. So I used to play a lot of basketball. And so I would ask the older brother or the guys I knew who were in law school, what do you think? I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be like, Law and Order and NYPD Blue. It does a great job, right? Well, guess what? Very few lawyers really do that. Very few lawyers really go into court and fight. You all know that? Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that at the point. So I said, wow, I want to be like those guys in Law and Order. That's awesome, right? So I started to ask guys who were a few years older than me, and they all told me they hated their jobs. Because they sat and they looked at books like this, and they did research for 80 hours, and I said to myself, me sitting in an office for 100 hours, I'm going to lose my mind. Just can't do it. So I took the LSATs, and I registered for law school, and thank God I never went. Thank God I never went. Thank God I never went. Because for me, I knew my limitations. And it doesn't mean that there's not happy lawyers, and it doesn't mean that lawyers don't do well. But for me, I knew my limitations. I knew what I was good at, and I knew what I wasn't good at. I would tell you that, you're now at an age when you have to start to know yourself. It means that your gut is often more important than your head. And understand it and know it. Your gut is more important than your head. What does it mean? It means you got to learn your instincts. It means you have to learn the smell, the feel of what's right and wrong. I don't mean the smell, the smell. I mean the smell, you got to feel it, right? You got to walk into a place and say, yeah, this is somewhere where I can really see myself going to work every day. I remember, that second job that I took, the CEO was a guy, I said, wow, this guy's a self-made guy and really wants to do it. And the other firm was like, oh my God, companies. Like, it didn't matter. I thought I wanted to work at those oh my God companies, but I didn't. It was okay to work for the other guy because I said I'm going to learn a lot more here. When you go out and you get your first job before you're entrepreneurs, the person you work for is probably more important than the company you go work for. What does that mean? It means that your boss, you can go work for FedEx or for Nike if your boss is terrible, it doesn't matter that you're working for Nike. It doesn't matter that you're working for FedEx because you're not dealing with Phil Knight, right? You're not dealing with the guy. You got to work for somebody. And you're not going to become, billionaires overnight, and you're not going to become uber successful overnight. It takes time and it's a process, and you got to learn every step of the way. So I would tell you that you should be authentic to yourself. You should know who you are for yourself. And as you get older, I'll tell you that one of the things that you'll learn is how to be comfortable in your own skin, which is very important. Again, for me, not wearing a tie, I'm comfortable with it. I'm okay with it. And if you're not, well, it's okay. That's why I work for myself. One of the things I tell every entrepreneur, you should listen to it well, is Obama needs 51%, whoever it is, Romney, but politicians need 51%. I don't need 51%. I don't need 51% of the worldwide PR market. You give me 10% of the US PR market, I'm a billionaire, and I'm okay with it. I don't need 51%. So there are plenty of companies that you're talking about, whether it's the yarn company here that presents. If that yarn company can just capture a segment of the yarn, they don't need to appeal to everybody. If they appeal to a segment of the population, they can do great, right? So as an entrepreneur, for me, one of the things that I knew was that my brand and our brand, the 5W brand, is a different brand. We are today within our industry. There's nobody in the PR market who doesn't know my business. Anybody who goes into PR? Anybody know PR, studying PR? Nobody. If you knew it, you would know the 5W brand. It's, thank God, they're very well known. We do well in our business. We have a lot of great clients. We get a lot of press. We do great work for our clients. But I would tell you that you should know your brand. I would tell you that you should know who you are. I would tell you that, as I said earlier, working long hours as an entrepreneur, there's no substitute for it. I got in a lot of trouble with my wife a few years ago when we were in the hospital and my oldest daughter was about to be born, and I told her, I have a child, right? course, I told her at the wrong time. I told her, an hour before my oldest daughter was going to be born. The child I was referring to was 5WPR. For me, my business is like a baby. Any entrepreneur will tell you that they look at their business like a baby. It's a living, growing organism. It's something that is always changing, is always moving. I would tell you that working hard and working long hours and being passionate about it is something that you have to have. And if not, don't do it. Don't be an entrepreneur. Anybody hear this term, lifestyle entrepreneur? Anybody ever heard this before? Lifestyle entrepreneur? I've never heard it. It's a term that, they use if you read entrepreneur magazines about, the entrepreneur lifestyle. What's a horrible lifestyle? It means that you start early and you end late. And guess what? People talk about, having patience. You should have patience in business. You ever heard that term? You know what doesn't have patience? My landlord doesn't have patience. You know what else doesn't have patience? The 15th and the 31st of the month, guess what all my employees expect? Their paycheck. They're not patient with that. But I should be patient. Right? So, I would say that being an entrepreneur, you have to have drive and motivation. And guess what? Nobody cares that it's your wedding anniversary. And nobody cares that it's snowing outside. And nobody cares that it's raining outside. Because guess what happens on the 15th and the 31st? Pay me! So remember it. I would tell you that, you got to have that drive and that motivation inside you. I would tell you that, I'm a religious person and I'm somebody who really believes in doing good. And that means that if you want to be really successful in business, you should do good things. We have a lot of different clients in a lot of different industries. And the best clients that we have are people that just do good things. So the best way that you can do, you look at, some of the best brands in the world, they have great return policies because they're doing good by their customers, because they guarantee their product. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out that the way that you build your business, the best way, is just to do great work for your clients. Do good. Do great work for your clients. I always tell my employees, when you come to work, how I want you to treat our clients? Like you treat your mother, like you treat your father, like you treat your best friend. That's how you should treat your clients. Does it mean that they're always right? No, they're not always right. The concept of the customer is always right is not a concept which I subscribe to. The customer is not always right. The customer is wrong. And if you're hiring a PR firm and you want your customer to be right, don't hire my firm. I'm not a yes man. We don't want to be yes people. You're hiring us and you're paying us a lot of money because you want us to tell you counsel, because you want us to tell us truth. Now, at the end of the day, we might not always be right. And if you're paying me, ultimately, if you decide us to do it, as long as it's legal, we're going to do it. Right? You're paying the bill. But if you want me to always tell you you're right, don't hire me. So I would tell you that you should have conviction if you're going to work for yourself. You should have courage. You should be bold. And you should do good things in the world. It makes the world a much better place and make your business much better also. It'll make your business much, much better. And I think that there's very few entrepreneurs who wouldn't tell you that sort of thing. I know Ted from the business world. This is a busy, successful man. Okay? For the man to schlep here to Brooklyn, there's plenty of other things that this very successful man can do. I know his children. His children love him and he's a great dad. He's a person that can spend time with his kids, right? So he's doing it because he wants to give back, right? Every entrepreneur that I've met that does good is successful in business. I don't separate it at all. And again, everybody has their own way, whether it's charity, whether it's being a professor, whatever it is, pick something and do it the right way. It'll make your business much, much, much more successful. Those are kind of my, rapidly scribbled notes in terms of what you can do. I would tell you that you gotta love what you do. It's really hard to be successful as an entrepreneur. It's really difficult. It's really hard. It is nonstop, and you gotta really want to succeed, because it takes a lot of success. It takes a lot to make it. I used to have hair before I started my business. I would tell you that there's a lot of people who want to make money, and there's a lot of people who want to build brands. And as Ted said, you can sell a brand for $30, and Walmart's selling it for $5. So how are you going to beat them? And guess what? I know what I'm getting when I'm walking into Walmart. I trust Walmart, right? I don't trust John Doe's pen company. So how are you going to be different from them? How are you going to differentiate yourself from them? All of those things are things you can think about. I think, there's a lot of people who fail in a lot of different businesses, right? You look at a lot of food businesses, for example. Somebody thinks because they're a great chef that they can make it in the food business. Well, that's not the case. Because there's a lot of great chefs. And it doesn't mean that you know anything about the price of tomatoes. It doesn't mean that you know how much people are going to pay for those tomatoes, right? It doesn't mean that you know how to manage your, $12 an hour waiters who are going to come into work, right? It doesn't mean that you want to work those awful hours. So there's a lot of things that go into, making it when you're an entrepreneur. People talk a lot about competition. I don't worry about competition. Our biggest competitor is ourselves. Our biggest competitor is our ability to grow our business. It's a different, it's a discussion for a different time at a different stage in your career. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to take a lot of things into account. And I think that I'd rather take your questions rather than keep speaking. But I'm going to end with 2 quick stories. So one of the defining moments of my life is, I'll never forget it, in 9th grade, in a classroom about the size of this in the Bronx, in public school, a teacher told me I would never be anything. And I remember I cursed her, and of course I got sent to the principal's office. You're a public school teacher in the Bronx, you're telling me that I'm never going to be anything? And of course I was right to tell her that. And I got sent to the principal's office, and my mother says, what happened? She said, good, you should have cursed her worse. But I never forgot that woman who told me I'm never going to be anything. And why was I never going to be anything? Because I got an 80 in chemistry instead of 100. I didn't give a damn about chemistry, right? Thank God I'm doing okay these days. So I would tell you that, you guys, more than anybody else, should know that you can be anything you want to be. You can be anything that you want to be, but you got to put your head to it. I look at, for example, the President of the United States, who I'm not a fan of, but the President of the United States, who grew up, nobody would have ever imagined that a guy named Barack Hussein Obama, who's a black guy from a family that's not, the Bushes, is the President of the United States. And you look at that and you got to admire him. You have to say, wow, this guy did it. He became the most powerful man in the world. There's no way that kid growing up thought he was going to be the President of the United States, right? We all agree on that? I thought we can all agree, right? No way that guy growing up said he could be the President of the United States 50 years ago. How old is he? 50, 52, whatever it is. You look at that in America, you say, wow, I can be anything. So, I know growing up in New York City, there's a lot of bumps and a lot of obstacles and a lot of different things that can get in your way. But at this point, man up, grow up, and it's in your boat. So I'll end with a quick story. So there once was a rabbi who traveled all over the world, and he could answer every question. Okay, wherever he went, whatever question was about, he answered every single question. So finally, a little girl, 3 years old, came up from the back of the room, and she said, Rabbi, I have the question that you can't answer. I held a bird in my hand, a tiny bird. Is the bird going to live or is the bird going to die? If you say that the bird is going to live, I'm going to take the bird, I'm going to crush it. And if you say that the bird is going to die, I'm going to open my hand, I'm going to let the bird go. What's the answer? The bird going to live or die? Rabbi says, tough question. Tells all the congregation, go home, I need a week to think about this. He travels from village to village. He speaks to every great rabbi, every wise man. What's the answer? What's the answer? What's the answer? So next week, the whole congregation comes together. My daughter comes forward, he tells the girl, I have the answer to your question. The answer lies in your hands. The fate of the bird lies in your hands. That's the answer to the question. And that's the, key for each of you. The key to your success lies in your hands. The key to your success, to making it, lies in your determination, your drive, your focus. It lies in Phil Knight telling his father, no, I'm going to keep selling sneakers out of my trunk. It lies in me telling my mother, Ma, I'm good, I'm going to keep working the pizzeria. And she was okay with it because it opened my eyes up to something much different. It lies with, me deciding out of a tiny office, wow, I'm going to go out and get humongous clients. And we did. And I would tell you that, the guy in this video now before the thing who said, if he had to recreate it, he doesn't know how he'd do it. That's absolutely true. There are very few entrepreneurs who can tell you, here's their 5-year business plan about the way that they can do it, but I don't know what that means. And I don't think that there's many entrepreneurs who would disagree with that. Again, thank God I employ, well over 100 people. I'm involved in a few different businesses. I'm 38 and I'm just getting started. And I have very good people around me who are my good friends who tell me when I'm right and when I'm wrong. And you want people around you to tell you when you're right, when you're wrong. But I'd rather take your question, but please keep that story of the bird in your mind. You can do anything you want to do, but you can't do it by, going down and sitting in Starbucks for 4 hours jerking around with your friends. That can't be. You can't do it by not being focused on who you want to be, and it's not easy to do it. It's not easy to, it's not easy in my 20s when everybody else was going out every single night for me to sit at work. Not easy. But it's also not easy for Ted Leibowitz, who could very easily be with his kids or be doing a million other things, to schlep to Brooklyn. But he wants to do it, right? It's the right thing to do. And in many ways, you do it because it helps you with where you want to go. So if you want to become successful, there is a price to success. There's a price to it. It doesn't come without a price. So you got to pay that price, but you can do it if you want to do it. That's my, words. And
Well, let's hear it for let's have a few questions for Ron from the class. Who's going to be up first?
What's your name?
Summer.
Summer?
Mm-hmm.
Summer.
Hi. Okay, so while I was reading, I because of bringing up that having a marketing is completely different than PR, well, that you need PR more so than marketing and advertising. When did you distinguish that like this?
I would.
Because I think of them as the same.
You haven't bought my book, go and buy it today.
Exactly.
I would tell you that marketing, I would tell you that PR is a part of marketing. There is no one single thing, there is no one single marketing thing which can set you on the path to success. Nothing. There is no one single thing you can do. I don't subscribe to the theory that advertising is dead, which some people talk about. I don't subscribe to that. Advertising is not dead in any way. There's somebody who said that all you need to do is spend a lot of money on advertising and you succeed. That I don't agree with at all. I think that there are many different things which go into marketing. Okay? Sometimes it's SEO and digital. Sometimes it's celebrities. Sometimes it's trade shows. PR is a part of the marketing advertising mix. PR is one of the cheapest ways that you can build a brand. So what do we do day to day, which I didn't talk a lot about? What we do is we get our clients into newspapers, magazines, online, offline. We build their brands. Sometimes we keep them out of newspapers if it's a negative story. I would tell you that public relations is one of the fastest growing industries in the country, okay? And it will continue to be because every single person has a brand. Just as I'm on video now today, if I Google you, what does it say about you? What does it say about you? Do you post on there that you're going to get high after class? Well, you're laughing, right? But how many of you have tweeted something inappropriate? Anybody ever see Ferris Bueller? Who saw Ferris Bueller? That could never, ever happen today. You know that, right? Never happened. Because one of them would have tweeted while they're on the way to the house. Because that video of them jumping on the float would have been on YouTube. That would never happen, right? That would never happen, very seriously. Because one of the four of them would have tweeted something stupid in between that, the time that they were doing all day, right? So the world has completely changed, and that's a lot about what PR. That's a lot of what PR is about. What you tweet, your mark, your dress, your style, who you are, of course, is a part of your brand. But PR is really about what the world says about you, whether you're a humongous company or whether you're a entrepreneur. You need to know what's being said about you on Google. You need to know if I'm interviewing you, what do you want me to see about you on Google? So all of you should have your full name on Twitter. All of you should buy for $9.95. Your name is Ted Leibowitz. You should own TedLeibowitz.com, right? That's your name. You should own it. It's $10 a year, guys. You should own it. And by the way, put your resume on there. So if I meet you somewhere and you're out looking for a job, I go to that site and I say, well, who are you again? That's where I go in there and find you. Okay. Come up with something fun, catchy, different. So you want to define for yourself. You want to define who you are. That's something that you can do. Public relations is really a mix, I think, between being a psychologist, being a lawyer, being a marketer. It's a real mix of different things. In the public relations business, again, there's people who do everything from speech writing to placing stories in media to digital content and, whether it's filming and, putting the right tag words on there. If you want to, if you wanted to create a thing which says, Brooklyn College is the worst, right? You can easily own all of page one for Google of Brooklyn College. It would cost you $500 if you were determined with a video camera. You could completely change the reputation of Brooklyn College if you wanted to, for good or for bad. So the same thing goes if you're selling yarn. The same thing goes if you start a Greek restaurant. There's a lot of ways that you can use PR to own content on Google. And if I'm not making sense, that's a whole other class. But PR is a fast-growing industry. I would tell you that to this day, I think the PR industry will continue to grow. But if you're interested in working in PR, you should read about it. A lot of different types of PR that could be done. But PR is much different than advertising, is much different than marketing. Are they similar? Yeah, and a podiatrist who works on your foot also had the same training as the kids' doctor, right? They both went to medical school. they're different fields, right? In other words, a professor of physics has the same job, also studied physics the same way that the guy who works at NASA studied physics. They're different jobs. PR and marketing, PR and advertising are different fields, and there's many different, within that industry, there's many different things that you could choose to do. But that's the thing for another session. Yes, ma'am, what's your name? Tiffany. You're the yarn girl, right?
It's a little louder.
I was watching the video they were saying about getting a Twitter page and a Facebook page, and that's all well and good, but what happens, how are you supposed to focus on your product? How are you supposed to, build your company? Because those things are time consuming. I mean, you are going on there constantly. Is there an outlet for like started entrepreneurs, startup who can go to like a small PR firm and take content there? Because you can have your own content, but if you really want to get out there, depending on your market, I mean, do you just think word of mouth is the best thing? And
The problem is that to build a business, like if I was starting a yarn company, what would I do? First of all, it's not just about your product. It's about owning the, quote unquote, yarn marketplace. You want to be thought of as a thought leader. So it's not just about selling your product. I understand you want to sell your product. Great. But I want you to tell me about if I'm making this kind of a needlepoint, here's the yarn I should be using. If I'm a kid, I should do this. If I'm making this kind of, piece, I should use this yarn. You want to be thought of as the quote unquote expert on all things to do with yarn. Okay? Are there places that you can buy content? Sure, there are places you can buy content. Are there different tools that you can use? Again, whether it's video, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, where you can capture mind share? Yes, there are. Is it cheap or easy? It's cheaper than advertising, but it's not cheap and it's not easy. And I would guess that if I want to buy yarn, Walmart or Target or a million other places will own those words on Google. So why should I come to you instead of to them? Is it higher quality? Well, if it's higher quality, then it means more expensive, and then you're talking about a certain demographic, so it's okay. We represent a lot of clients who are not price sensitive in terms of what they do, right? In other words, would I market that in the inner city? I probably wouldn't, but would I market it on Madison Avenue? I might, because it depends on the demographic that you're talking about, right? In my book, for example, I talk about a great watch brand. I'm not wearing a watch today, but a great watch brand called Audemars Piguet, okay? Audemars Piguet is one of the most expensive watch brands in the world, and they only sell a few thousand pieces a year. You guys never heard of it, right? They don't want you to hear of it. You have heard of it? You listen to hip hop. Okay, the rappers sing about it, but others do too. They don't want to be a mass market brand. They don't want to be Nike. Okay? They do not want to sell to 51% of the market. They don't care about 51% of the market. If you can't afford a $25,000 watch, they don't care about you. It doesn't matter. You don't matter. So their audience is only a certain segment of people. And by the way, they pick brand ambassadors that reflect that. Jay-Z's a brand ambassador. Shaquille O'Neal's a brand ambassador. They use a lot of NASCAR racers as brand ambassadors. They use Bill Clinton. They use people that appeal to a certain segment of the demographic. Now, yes, Jay-Z or others have crossover, but that doesn't matter for that audience. What they care about is that will people in that price range buy that kind of a watch? So again, when you're building a brand, those are things you can think about. If you're talking about selling a product more expensive than somebody else, don't try and compete with Swatch if you're Audemars Piguet, because you can't. Because the price is a completely different price point, but you're talking to a different demographic. Why do people wear that watch? Anybody know? Because for men, there's very few things on a man that you can look at that can tell you that he's successful. There's very few things on a man that you can look at. Ted, I'm right or I'm wrong? You can't tell from looking at him. But if I'm a man with money, I can look at his watch, and that's a secret language. It's a secret language for men in the business world. Am I correct on that, Ted? Fair to say? So it's something that you see very few, it's one of the things that, again, entrepreneurs, there are a lot of successful self-made entrepreneurs who do that because they want to send the language that, okay, I can deal with you. But by the way, if you call me and you show up my office and you don't have a budget, how do I know you can pay me? I'm going to ask you, okay, where's your money coming from? If you're wearing a watch, I might not ask you the same way, right? In other words, I want to know that you're not wasting my time. I'm not trying to be friends, right? I'm trying to get you to hire me, right? So I want to know who you are. So if you're going to tell me, okay, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, great. But can you pay our bill? At the end of the day, that's really what it's about. So if you all have never read about Audemars Piguet, you should. It is a phenomenal brand that does specific, target, niche marketing phenomenal brand, but it talks to a certain audience. The same way that, you know, Chanel talks to a certain demographic of women. You know, Louis Vuitton, you ever see Louis Vuitton discounted? No? You know you never will? Well, you will in Chinatown, but besides that, you know why you never will? You know they burn all their goods? They burn all of their goods. They will not sell it anywhere else because they don't want you to be able to buy that jacket, which costs $5,000 at $2,000 in Century 21. They burn their goods because they care so much about their brand. And yes, their prices are crazy, but that's why Louis Vuitton is on a different level. They're a different level. And again, you don't have to be, but people who are walking into Louis Vuitton are not concerned about the price point, but that's marketing. And you can do it a different way where, you know, again, you can do volume and make a lot of money also, but it depends on what your market is. And those are all things to think about as you're building the brand, because if you're building a hamburger, if you're selling me French fries, I'm gonna buy from McDonald's before I'm gonna buy from you. Unless you tell me that your thing is more salty, more this, more that. If you tell me strawberry French fries, well, my kids might like it, right? I might go buy strawberry French fries for my kids, right? But if you're trying to sell me French fries and you're Ted's Deli and that's McDonald's, where am I going? I know what I'm getting at McDonald's, right? I trust McDonald's, I get it. But if Ted's Deli is $1 extra and it's strawberry French fries, my kids are telling me we want strawberry French fries, Daddy. Guess what? I might buy strawberry French fries, right? But I'm not going to buy the same product. I'm not going to be able to build a mass business when I really trust McDonald's for French fries, right? I'm involved with a number of, you know, footwear companies, but I'm not trying to out-price or out-sexy Nike for the mass market, right? You can't, right? Now you could if you're trying to be, you know, Stephon Marbury, who's doing phenomenal with his sneaker brand in China, because his price point is a different price point, and you're talking to a whole different audience inside China. But if he was trying to price the same way as Nike, you think you can beat Nike? You're gonna buy another product you never heard of instead of your Nikes? No, you trust Nike. You know what you're getting with Nike, right? You walk into class, nobody's gonna say, what is that? You got Nikes on, you're okay, right? Those are things, again, that when you're talking about being an entrepreneur and when you're talking about PR, it's languages that you have to think about and you have to understand as you're trying to market.
Okay, that certainly was a tremendous lecture. I sent everybody the link for Ron's best-selling book for immediate release, so hopefully you guys will go out and buy a copy and help support the cause. Thanks again, Ron.
Thank you.